Do I recommend the Oblivion Remaster? Short answer, yes. Long answer, the rest of this video. If you're like me and grew up playing the original Oblivion and loving every second of it, then you were probably pretty excited by the news of it being remastered. But maybe you were also a bit nervous. Would this remaster be able to capture what made the original so magical, and would it be able to live up to the expectations 20 years in the making? Well, I played through the main quest and some of the side content, and I'm here to comfortably tell you that it is indeed Oblivion with a fresh coat of paint. I'm going to break this video down into several smaller parts so you can easily jump to what you want to know. That being said, I do want to say, I'm not a game reviewer by nature. I'm a challenge runner, I just like to make jokes, but I'm going to do my best to give you my complete unbiased opinion. First, let's start with the obvious one, the graphical upgrade. This game is absolutely gorgeous. It is breathtakingly beautiful. The world is full of lush greenery, cascading light rays, and particle effects. I won't deny though that it has that unreal look to it. For example, if you were to show me some environmental screenshot that did not have any distinct landmarks, I might not be able to tell that it was specifically Oblivion. I'm not really saying that as a bad thing though, and I definitely don't want to take away from the hard work that the environmental designers put in. One of the shots that stood out to me was the first Oblivion gate in Kvatch. As I approached, I noticed embers falling from the sky, and when I got near it, just the darkness of the world contrasted with the burning fire of the Oblivion gate itself. Well, I almost wanted Dagon to win so I could see this all the time. Another shot was when I was in Wayne Priory for the first time. This scene with Joffrey sitting with the light pouring in through the window behind him as he quietly read his book was just, well, magical. The enemies are all similarly striking yet familiar. Many of them simply look like what you would imagine highly detailed versions of the original look like. And things like animals having fur now actually have fur. Other enemies look a bit different, but in a good way. For example, the ghosts. They are no longer floating blue ethereal torsos with arms, they are now floating green ethereal torsos with arms. A small joke, but I do like this redesign because it doesn't feel completely altered, like I knew that was supposed to be a ghost enemy the moment I saw it. That all being said, I was not initially a fan of the character models, specifically the Argonians, Khajiits, and Orcs. There's something almost uncanny valley about them. Now, of course, I don't mean to insult the artists. They are very skilled and this is very detailed work, but there's something about the smoothness of the features that look slightly off to me personally. However, I think that this is intentional. A lot of players felt the shift from whimsical fantasy to dark gritty fantasy that happened between Oblivion and Skyrim was a step in the wrong direction. I think the designs of these characters are an attempt at bringing that whimsical nature, but to high definition. The other issue is that they felt slightly out of place with the rest of the races. I don't know how to phrase it, it almost felt like they were cartoons in the real world, but by the end they had grown on me. I mean, as I saw more characters in the world and how they interacted with each other just as NPCs, it felt more like they fit in. Strangely, and perhaps ironically, now that I'm on a second playthrough and exploring more of the world, I kind of feel like it's the other way around. That the Argonians and Khajiits fit in just fine, but the Imperials and High Elves kinda don't. Moving on, the visual effects for some spells are nice, like Flare. It feels like you're launching a fireball with your hand, and you can see the embers come off your fingertips as you cast it. When characters cast buffs on themselves, they have a shimmer that coats them, and it looks good. The lightning effect, however, is kinda weird. It looks more like you quickly tethered a rope between your hand and whatever you aimed it at, and it just kinda glows blue. Overall, the graphics are absolutely phenomenal, and I feel the art direction went in the right way. Now, let's move on to what a lot of people are wondering about, the actual gameplay. Movement felt weird at first. It felt like my character was gliding around on ice skates, and I quickly realized it's because the character has a bit of momentum. By the end of my playthrough, I was used to it, but you can move really quickly, quickly. I mean, you can reach your top speed in a fraction of a second, and then slowing down you feel the weight of your character. It isn't bad, but it is noticeable for the first hour. Similarly, when you try to climb a steep mountain, your character slows down to mimic how difficult it would be to actually climb a mountain. You are still able to jank jump your way up, but you can no longer jump without stamina, so... Terrible design, bring back the stamina-less jump so I can spam the acrobatic skill. Combat is changed a little. I don't know if it's better or not, honestly. First, there is no more spamming the attack button to just relentlessly swing your sword. Instead, weapons have combos, for lack of a better word. Claymores have 2 swings, longswords have 3, and daggers have 4, for example. If I recall correctly, hand-to-hand also has 4, but I admittedly did not try that or any blunt weapons, but I assume they would follow the same structure. This system is fine, I guess. It makes more sense than being able to swing your weapon non-stop, but it does make the combat feel broken up. That feeling is compounded by the fact that you can't instantly shield or instantly attack after blocking. However, because it's only a couple hits at a time, it doesn't feel completely fluid either. Again, I do not know if this is a step up or not. If anything, it's more like a sidestep. A side grade? Stamina now recovers much faster, and if you lose all your stamina, say to blocking a power attack, once you recover, you get a huge portion of it back, which is a nice touch to get you back into the fight. In addition, enemies now react to being hit. Sort of. Their bodies will contort in different directions when they take a blow. This isn't a bad thing, but it does look kinda funny. Especially when I'm using something like a short sword. Sure, if I swung a warhammer, I could see them bending around on impact, but a smaller, lightweight weapon meant for cutting, not bludgeoning? Well, alright then. Also, now there are tomes like Skyrim, apparently. Just like that game, they just teach you the spell, and it's really a nice addition, I just had nowhere else to mention it. Other than that though, combat is largely unchanged. Light attacks, power attacks, blocking, it's all there. However, I do want to say, when I hit Journeyman and Blade, the tip said power attacks can inflict weakness. And at some point I also got a tooltip that said Expert Blade skill can cause bleed on light attack. I do not know what either of these things are. Now, of course, I can guess weakness probably means increased damage from physical attacks, and bleed is either a dot or a chunk of health loss, but the game is so new, the wiki looks like this. Oh, it's Spextra, I didn't realize they did things outside of Souls games. Anyway, I suppose in the end this is better. I don't want to spoil any new things that the game adds, so being unknown for now isn't bad. You're still able to cast spells while holding weapons, which is something I liked over Skyrim's system. Arrows feel kinda heavy, though I think that this is just because I had a low marksman skill. Overall, the combat system from the original remains intact, though I do wonder how people will react to the combo style instead of the endless swinging style. However, the leveling system has been slightly reworked. Major and minor skills still exist, but the old way of using them to level up overall is gone. Major skills get an initial boost like before, and they're easier to level up. Additionally, leveling a major skill contributes more to overall level progress than a minor skill does. In general though, the system is more like Skyrim's, where any level you do contributes to your overall character level. I might have been hallucinating this, but leveling overall felt a bit slow. I finished the main quest and became Grand Champion of the arena, and I only barely made it to level 9. So what happens when you actually level up? You get to allocate 12 virtues to your attributes. The nice thing, you get to decide which ones you want. However, you're still only able to pick up to 3 different attributes for whatever reason. One weird thing that I noticed though is that luck takes 4 points for one increase and can only be done once per level. I don't know why this restriction is put in, but it is. Lastly, just to mention, I would like it that if on this screen the attributes told you what they governed. I mean, for experienced players coming from the original they would know, but a new player might have no idea what willpower actually does, for example. Overall though, I do like this system way more because it means I don't have to stand around casting Flashlight in the dark to level a minor skill just to get +5 illusion after casting Self-Burn for 30 minutes to increase my destruction major skill. Coming off of that and graphics, I want to talk a little about the UI, though I don't have much to say. I love it. The HUD is pretty minimal, but also a hybrid of the original and Skyrim's. You have your compass up top and your weapon and spell in the bottom right. Active effects will show up in the bottom left, and centered in the bottom is your magicka, health, and stamina that only show up when they aren't full. A few other icons, like when you're over encumbered or your equipment is about to break, will be shown in the bottom right next to your weapon. The enemy's health will show up in the top center, and it has a visual feedback for how much damage you're doing. One of my complaints about Skyrim's health feedback was that the bar was kinda small. This one is not. Top right of the screen displays when you level up something, which is kinda small, but it's fine. And the top left is used for messages like when the enemy resists a certain damage type or your enchanted weapon is used up, those sorts of things. That works, but I'm not gonna lie, in the middle of combat, I never once looked at the top left side of my screen. The weapon icon also displays your current charge, so a quick glance there can tell you anyway. The map now has icons that can be toggled. 10 out of 10, that is a phenomenal idea. Whoever implemented that needs a medal. There are other small quality of life things like the compass showing a distance tracker and items being highlighted on the ground if you look at them. When speaking with NPCs, the camera will focus on them the same way it does in the original, which is fine, but there's something off about selecting the dialogue options. I don't even really know how to explain it. It just feels like the options are being selected twice, and I'm not sure why. Also, sometimes the camera kind of freaks out when it tries to focus on an NPC. Like, it'll spin in a weird way to target them, and it's kind of disorienting, though honestly that only happened a few times. The rest of the UI is pretty much just the original, but it looks nicer. The only exception I can think of is the bartering windows. They now display your inventory and the shops side by side. The repair and re-enchant services are also a little different, with it showing the item itself and some other information. Moving on to our final major talking point, sound design. First, the music. It is the same music from the original. I do not know if it was redone in any way. I'll admit I do not have very good ears, but it sounds fine. And yes, I still get goosebumps when I hear Reign of the Septums. However, the music seems to always be playing. Maybe the original did that too, but it's weirdly noticeable here. Like, I'll be walking around and it has calming music, but then something shows up and suddenly fight music. That I'm pretty sure was in the original, but here the way it fades between tracks is different. A good example is when I engage an enemy that hasn't seen me and one-shot it. The music tries to start, but then ends immediately because I've already exited combat. So you get this weird transition from calm to fighting for half a second, then back to calm. The sound effects themselves though all sound really good. No idea if it's just me, but for some reason Protect sounds like a guitar being strummed, but that's fine. Unfortunately, as I said, I do not have the best ear for sound design, but to me, just a random person playing it, it sounds good. I like it. Lastly, I'd like to talk about the bugs and issues I ran into. I am happy to say that not only did the game not crash, I did not find any game-breaking bugs. Now, that's not to say that there aren't any. Like I said, I've only done a fraction of the content at the time of writing this, but let's be real, the whole not crashing thing? That's glorious. I did run into some minor bugs though, none of which actually impacted gameplay, but they do exist and I'm going to show them here. A UI bug that says to use A and D to navigate these pages, but these pages are actually Q and E. This archer has a hard time running away from me, not that it would have helped him anyway. My Eek has no dialogue when spoken to and only said one thing repeatedly. Cameron's animation locked when I jokingly shot him with an arrow. This Mythic Dawn agent is fleeing casually away. Also Shrek reference. I do not know what my health bar is doing here. Sometimes, particularly in the arena, there are no subtitles. Some elements are not centered where they should be. Here, the sword is centered to the screen, not the box. The prisoners are outside of their cages. The doors in the grotto zoom off into the distance when used. This blade has mastered a new version of the moonwalk. Whatever these things are. Not having a shadow while in first person, but my weapons do. Or rather, perhaps, the weapons having a shadow when they shouldn't. I'm not sure which is intended, honestly. Martin's robe does not understand cloth physics. And that's it. Honestly, a very small amount of minor bugs. Well, there was one other thing. I got horrible frame stutters for a while, but I realized halfway through recording footage that was my fault for not updating my graphics drivers for probably a couple years at this point. Once I did that though, the game ran butter smooth, minus a second or so of lag whenever I walked outside. But I'm not holding that last thing against the game though, as it's trying to load everything at once, and as soon as it does, it's golden. In the end, I highly recommend the Oblivion Remaster. It feels like a faithful one-to-one creation just with enhanced graphics. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I know that this isn't my normal style of content, but I was just so excited to play this. I will be doing challenge runs over it eventually, those just take a lot longer. Also, of course, a massive thanks to my wonderful Patreons who help keep the channel alive. Stay beautiful, y'all. Well, with all that being said, I think there's only one question left to ask. So Todd, when Morrowind Remaster?